Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a deck list for Garbodor Tauros. Now, I did my Garbodor video recently. I explained to you how this right now is the big deck in Japan. It is a one that's being hyped. It is a one that is seeing a lot of success. There are some decks like Alolan Ninetales that are also seeing success, but my understanding from my correspondent in Japan is that this is primarily because it's good at countering Garbodor along with other decks. A lot of people have asked me for a deck list, and, well, Antoine Boulet, being the lovely man he is, he has given me the deck list that won in my Aggie Regionals and got second alongside the Ninetales deck. Remember, that was a team tournament, which means that although there were 2 finalists, there were actually 6 decks, because they were teams of 3 people. I say 6 decks, they were all Garbodor, Tauros, or Ninetales. So starting off with the Pokemon, we had 4 Trubbish. Well, of course, you play Trubbish, it evolves into Garbodor. And we had 3 of the new Trash Valanche Garbodor. Now, this is the amazing new Garbodor, the thing that really makes the deck tick, so to speak. For 1 Psychic Energy, you can do 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. Now, I did a video about how the deck works, so I'm not going to go into huge detail here. You can go and check that video for how the deck actually works. This is more about the list, but this card really is just insane. 180 HP Pokemon, if your opponent puts 9 items in their discard pile, you're getting a 1-hit KO. It's a non-EX, it's a stage 1, it's a single energy, it's utterly ridiculous. Now, we are playing double colorless energy in this deck, so we can use Acid Bomb. 70 damage, flip a coin if heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Discarding energy is good, it slows them down. Sometimes 70 damage will be enough for the KO, maybe they've not discarded many items, but if you're using this attack, something's probably gone wrong. Why are we only playing 3 of this Garbodor? Because we're playing 1 of the Garbotoxin Garbodor. I made this point in my Garbodor video. If you're playing 1 Garbodor, you can easily play the other. Now, the rules of Pokemon say you can only have 4 of each named card, so you can only have 4 Garbodor in total. Not every deck needs abilities, but some of them do. Against decks like Volcanion, or just to shut down anyone SHAYMIN or Tapu Lele, it's really handy to have a Garbodor out. And that's why we just play 1 of these. We'd love to play more, but we're playing 3 Trash Valanche Garbodor. Free Tapu Lele GX. Why free Tapu Lele? Because it's absolutely brilliant. First, you've got the ability that allows you to just search for a supporter card, which means you're going to be able to firstly get set up nice and quickly, but you can even search for your tech supporters, something like a Hex Maniac if you need to turn off abilities now, or a Ninja Boy if you really want to switch one basic into another. But don't sleep on the attacks of Tapu Lele. For a double colorless, and we are playing double colorless energy, Energy Drive, 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. A lot of the time it's not going to do any more damage than Trash Valanche would, but you know what? Maybe they don't have a lot of items in their discard pile. Sometimes this could be a good attack. And you can even use the GX attack here because you're playing Psychic Energy. Heal all damage from 2 of your benched Pokemon. It's not always going to be needed, but some games you're going to need to heal, and that's what Tapu Lele can do. Yes, the ability is immense, but the reason we're playing 3 of it here, because the attack is good as well. We're playing a single SHAYMIN EX. SHAYMIN allows you to draw until you've got 6 cards in hand. It's one of the best setup cards we've got. It's really, really handy for getting set up in the early game. We only play 1 because a lot of the time we're not going to need it. We've got Tapu Lele to find supporters, and to be perfectly honest, we don't need all that much. It's a stage 1 that attacks for a single energy. 2 Tauros GX, he's another one of your alternate attackers. Again, we want to be generally attacking with Trash Avalanche Garbodor, but sometimes we want to be using Tauros. Tauros is amazing because if you don't get a one-hit KO on Tauros, then you hit back harder than you were just hit. Now you can just go and do 60 for a double colourless energy, I suppose. Don't forget we are, as I've already said, playing double colourless in this deck. But you can do 20 damage plus 10 for each damage counter on Tauros for a double colourless. Or you can, as your GX, and remember it's 1 GX attack per game, so you either use Tauros's once or you use Lele's once. 30 damage times the amount of damage on Tauros. If they don't get a one-hit KO with the GX attack, you probably are. One of the Sensu style Oricorio. Really here, it's the attack for a single colourless energy that allows you to drop 1 damage counter anywhere you like for each Pokemon in your opponent's discard pile. So if they've got 10 Pokemon in the discard, you can drop damage counters wherever you like. Now at this stage I want to point out that Japan is playing a slightly different format. They are not playing Primal Clash on like we are, they are playing X and Y onwards. So for them, Night March is still a big deal, and Oricorio is a brilliant Night March counter. However, it's also a decent attacker for a single energy. But if you're not playing in Expanded and you're not worried about Night March, this can still take down Vespiquen. But if you're not worried about Vespiquen and you're not playing in a format where Night March is legal, maybe you could afford to cut this for another card you'd rather have. And 1 Tapu KOKO of the non-GX variety. Now I've told you about this one before, but here's the deal. This is the one card that isn't actually coming out in Guardians Rising, but it is coming out as a promo card very soon, so you will be able to play it. It's coming out in its own little figure collection, etc. So it is going to be coming out. This does 20 damage to each Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field for a double colourless. And you might have already got this, but I'm going to say it one more time just in case. We're already playing double colourless energy here. Brilliant. What does this do? It helps you hit numbers. It means that every Pokemon comes back into range. It means that you won't be 20 damage short. I am led to believe a lot of people in Japan are playing one of these in pretty much every deck to help you hit the numbers. In the US, Europe, etc., this card is not being hyped. Maybe you want to cut it. But if everyone in Japan, or at least a great number of people, think it's a good idea, I'd think about it again. As a couple of side notes here, now that we have reached the end of the Pokemon section of the video, if you want to see a complete list, there is one at the end. I don't have a picture of the deck to use as a fancy background, I'm sorry. And secondly, remember all of these cards, except for Tapu KOKO, which is coming out soon, are in Guardians Rising, which means that if you want a new Garbodor deck, this list will be legal straight away. And that's really nice. In terms of energy, it's very simple. 4 double colourless, because double colourless is amazing, and 7 basic psychic energy. Why 7? Testing. You need them for Garbodor. 7 gives you a very good chance of hitting them when you need it. It's not always going to give you one, but it's the best we can do here. Now, in terms of supporter cards, we play for Professor Sycamore. It is the fastest, most aggressive draw supporter in the format. Discard your hand, draw 7. You need your Trubbishes, you need your energies. This will help you get them. 3 copies of N, because it's the second best draw supporter in the format. Generally, N is also pretty good, because if your opponent takes a big lead, you can then end them down to a small hand size and make a comeback. But this is a fairly aggressive deck. Sometimes your opponent will take a lead and you'll want to play an N, but not all the time here. 2 Lysandre is fairly standard. Lysandre allows you to draw one of your opponent's Pokemon from the bench into the active so that you can KO it. 2 is fairly standard in most decks. Same thing with Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac turns off abilities. That means no SHAYMIN, no Tapu Lele. It really helps against decks like Volcanion and anything that is reliant on abilities. So here, this is pretty nice. but it's also fairly standard. One Pokemon fan club, like I've said, you need your Trubbishes out. When you're playing a deck which revolves around stage 1s, you cannot just search your Pokemon on the turn. You need to have Trubbishes down so you can evolve them next turn, and Pokemon fan club allows you to do that. And finally, one Ninja Boy. I like Ninja Boy. Ninja Boy allows you to switch one basic for another, and there's two really good uses in this deck. Number one, if you don't have a Trubbish down to use next turn, but let's say you do have a Tapu Lele, then all you need to do is Ninja Boy into a Trubbish. It then has been down for a turn, and as long as a Lele was down the previous turn, you can immediately evolve. The second thing, of course, is you let a Pokemon like Tapu Lele take a hit. You then Ninja Boy into Tauros and use something like Mad Bull GX. One of the big problems for a deck like Garbodor is a deck like Mega Gardevoir. The lower HP of Garbodor means that Gardevoir is getting a one-hit KO every turn, but the high HP of Gardevoir, along with not needing all that much to get the KOs, means that they might not use many items and it's hard to one-hit KO them. So they're going to be two-hit KOing things like Tapu Lele and Tauros. Now they're probably not going to want to hit straight into a Tauros for fear of Mad Bull GX, so they're going to try and two-hit KO something like a Tapu Lele. Well, that's when you Ninja Boy into Tauros. It's a really good card in this deck. And then we can finish off looking at the item cards. 4 versus Seeker is very standard. It allows you to reuse any of your supporter cards, and it's so good. You can get a Sycamore when you need lots of cards, but a Ninja Boy when you want to Mad Bull GX. 4 Ultra Ball because it is the best card we've got to search for Pokemon at the moment. 2 Field Blower. Now this is the new item card that allows you to discard tools and stadiums. Sometimes you want to discard stadiums, like discarding Rayquaza's Skyfield for instance, but a lot of the time here you get rid of things like Fighting Fury Belt, which would allow them to have higher HP, and for every tool you discard, you do an extra 20 damage with Garbodor. 3 Choice Band because it allows your Garbodor and Lele etc. to do an extra 30 damage to EXs and GXs. That's amazing. We play 4 Floatstone here. Why do we play 4 Floatstone? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, you don't want something like a Tapu Lele stuck in the active when you could be attacking with a Garbodor. But remember, of course, we're playing one of the Garbotoxin Garbodors here. And that means that sometimes you need to be turning off abilities, which means you need to have a tool attached, and the best tool to have is a Floatstone because of the high retreat. So you play the full 4 here. You could switch around and play 4 Choice Band free Floatstone, but you would then potentially run into the issue of not having a Floatstone when you needed to retreat a Garbodor. 2 Rescue Stretcher here. Why are we playing Rescue Stretcher rather than playing something like a Super Rod? Well, Rescue Stretcher is better. Either you shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck, and it's basically a Super Rod, or you put 1 Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. Now this is important, because sometimes you want one and sometimes you want the other. If you just want to stream Garbodors, then you just keep putting Trubbishes and Garbodors back into your deck. But sometimes, let's say you're against Night March, you want to use that Oricorio over and over again, so grabbing it back into your hand is very much the way to go. We are playing 1 Super Rod here though. We very rarely are going to want to recover Psychic Energy. Most of the time, you're playing 7, you're attacking with 4 to 6 Garbodor, so you need 4 to 6 Psychic Energy. But we've all had those games where you have 2 energy prize, then you've got to Sycamore 2 in the early game. Now Tapu Lele and Tauros can attack for a double colourless, so I wouldn't be that mad if you didn't play Super Rod here. But some games you're going to want to recover Psychic Energy. You could go free Rescue Stretcher, just so you can always grab back the Pokemon you want rather than shuffling them in, but I think 2 Rescue Stretcher, 1 Super Rod is the better split here. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deck. Now, if you want it in one go, here is the list on the screen. It's a really good list. Like I've said, the Oricorio is more of a Night March counter, and I know that people over in US, Europe, etc. don't tend to play Tapu KOKO. Or, no, I mean it hasn't been released yet, so you haven't been able to. What I mean is it's a kind of card we haven't been playing. What I would say is to test it, because I think you would be surprised at how often it will be useful. I love this deck list, and remember, it is completely legal. We are not waiting for the next set to come out. As soon as Guardians Rising is legal for tournament play on, I believe, the 19th of May, it is the 19th of May, I checked, and we get the Tapu KOKO box come out, you can play this deck. Now, you asked for these deck lists, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you tell your friends, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, tell me that you want more of these deck list videos, because I have people who can send me a Japanese deck list nowadays, so you want them, I can provide them. Make sure that you're doing all that usual stuff. Follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.